Thanks, Gwen, and hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this weekend. And now we go into esports. So to kick off our very first segment, we'd like to introduce our speaker, who is Vivek Sharma. He is the Vice President of Facebook Gaming. And thank you so much, Vivek, for being here. I know it's in the middle of the night for you. Appreciate you very much coming to share, how Facebook is obviously the leading social media platform in Southeast Asia. So how can we best leverage the platform, and what is Facebook Gaming? How can we work with it? So I'll hand over to Vivek now.
Hey everybody, can you hear me okay? Yeah, it's all good?
Yep, all good.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I had a chance to listen in for the last 10, 15 minutes, and I'm totally intimidated because of the fabulous, amazing agenda and speakers you all have probably heard from and will hear from. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. It's kind of funny, the title says the role Facebook plays in Southeast Asia esports. But let me tell you, Facebook Gaming would not exist if we had not invested and if we had not started our journey in Southeast Asia. And it would not exist if we had not actually started our journey in Singapore. So I don't know how many folks know this on the chat or on the session today, that we have upwards of we actually have a Singapore office for Facebook, which is amazing. It is just, I actually don't know the full geography of Singapore. I've only visited a couple of times, and every time I've been a little bit dazed coming in, from Seattle time to Singapore time. But it's the two towers with a nice view. We have hundreds of folks working, and on the gaming team itself, we have upwards of 30 to 40 people dedicated to gaming in Singapore that cover all of Southeast Asia. And so, the thing I want to keep, I got some feedback from Cheryl and Alicia before, saying that, the thing that would be useful today is to have more of a casual conversation around what it takes to build a platform and what Facebook has done. And so I'm going to just riff as much as I can and hopefully be responsive to some of the feedback that's coming in from the chat. So please feel free to ask questions, because honestly, I just want to be here for all of you and what is top of mind for you. So what I'll do is, for the next few moments, I'd love to kind of give you a little bit of history of what Facebook Gaming is all about. And I hope the reason for not sharing slides is because I actually didn't get my slides reviewed by our PR and comms people. So there's a great risk that I can give you secret information. But if I don't share the slides and I just talk, I think everything will be cool. There'll be no secrets that will be recorded. But that's okay. If you decide that there's something super awesome, you just call it out and I can talk more about it. Deal? So Facebook. Here's here's the nut of what Facebook is all about. We heard from a lot of the panelists. I think you heard from a lot of the panelists that I'm hopeful you've heard that gaming is a giant industry. What is in it for Facebook? Facebook's mission, very simply, is to connect and build the world's community. Okay, and that has been the driving mission for Facebook for all of the things that we invest in. We invested in Marketplace. I used to work on Marketplace. It was all about connecting buyers and sellers. Groups for connecting over topics in your local community, online with your friends and family, Messenger, WhatsApp, all of it is about connection. So what does gaming have to do with it? Gaming, we consider to be the world's first digital art form. Everything else that you've seen emerge from human society has been about this kind of linear watching or linear consumption. In the old days, you had radio, which was the equivalent of somebody standing up in town and reading a newspaper. From radio emerged this idea of broadcast, which turned into visual broadcast, which became television. And from television, expanded into channels. And from channels became shows and TV and all that medium that came out from. But gaming is the first true art form, medium, that is digital first. There is no analog for gaming in the physical world. Yes, you could say, chess and other games and board games are analogs, but no, like the way that gaming, where you can take a persona, project it onto a screen and play as that persona and interact with others, does not exist in the real world. And so it is a new level or a new type of human connection that has never existed before. This is why Facebook is interested, because as a digital company, as a company whose mission is all about connecting everybody in the world, it is up to us to try and connect people through all the mediums that exist, including gaming. Gaming has 2.5 billion people worldwide. And unlike popular culture, it's not all just, Western markets and men. In fact, 55% of all of the gaming audience in the world is women, and majority of those gamers are in Southeast Asia, India, Middle East, Latin America. So as a focus for us, when we started our journey in gaming, we decided to focus on the places where gamers are really innovating and pushing the boundaries, which is, where all of you are currently at and living. And I wish I was there with you, the current circumstances being what they are. So that's kind of like the reason why we invested in Southeast Asia first, because it really is the most important market. And we believe that folks in Southeast Asia are pushing the boundaries of what it means to be gamers. I'll give you a couple of examples on this. First and foremost, if you come by Seattle, and I hope you do, and come visit, our Facebook office, I welcome you all. But if you do come by and visit Seattle, you will scoff and laugh at how many desktops and big screens you see. Whereas when we travel in Southeast Asia, the primary device of interaction is the mobile phone. And I kid you not, people today, even when I go talk about our strategy of focusing on Southeast Asia and mobile, they kind of laugh and say, well, how are you going to get real gamers? Which I think everybody here should be insulted by, because real gamers game on mobile phones, let me tell you. And they're much better on mobile phones. So there's a lot of differences in the market. So as we did Southeast Asia, we decided to focus on mobile first and started our journey on making sure that we satisfy this idea of community building through this new digital medium on gaming. A little bit of perspective on the business of gaming. The speaker right before me talked actually quite a bit, and amazing statistics from Newzoo and Business Insider on how lucrative the gaming market is. And I'm sure everybody here wants to hear about the business as well. As a platform, one of the things that we have been very interested in and actually have benefited from in Facebook is the fact that gaming is one of the most profitable ecosystems perhaps in human society. So I don't know how many of you know this statistic, but gaming is like 153 or 158 billion dollar yearly industry across all forms, mobile, PC, console, everything, advertising included, 158. Now here's the stark statistic that I hope you have heard before, and if you haven't, I hope you repeat it to others, because when I heard it, it was a kind of a shock. But that 153 billion, that 158 billion, one of those two numbers, somebody can correct me and look it up, is bigger than the music industry. It's bigger than the TV show, syndicated show industry. It's bigger than the yearly revenue from movies. And guess what? It's bigger than all three of those things combined. It is insane. And it's growing at about 9 to 11% every year. So it is a massive, massive economic opportunity, not just for Facebook, but for everybody else on this call and everybody else who wants to go engage in gaming. So how do we, Facebook, take a look at this? For us, it's not about just profit first. What we think about it is like, hey, we have a community. The community is not just the viewers and players, but it's also business folks such as game developers and esports and influencers and creators. And so our first job is to return value back to them as fast as possible. Some interesting statistics from our side, once we got into the live streaming business in Facebook, very quickly, within a year and a half, it turns out that we were returning more value to our creators than any of the other platforms because of that focus on ecosystem sustainability and returning value back to the creators. I noticed that the chat is like, it seems like there's like 15 people, pinging questions and stuff. So if you have questions, feel free to interrupt at any time. But what I want to do is to kind of zoom in on a couple of what I would call macro trends that are in our industry. Alicia, feel free to tell me if I should take any questions or clarifications. Otherwise, I'll continue a little bit more.
Yeah, no worries. Go ahead. We can do questions at the end.
Got it. So we talked about the economic opportunity, the context of why Facebook cares about gaming. Let's talk a little bit about what's actually going on in the universe of game platforms. And I hope this is interesting to you, because as you are considering careers and opportunities in gaming, I want to be able to give you some insight on what's the ground truth. So here's the deal. So the gaming is made up of several interlocking pieces. There's the advertising business, which is about extracting value by accessing attention span from gamers, let's call it. All right, so that's one industry hub. Second industry hub is just, as a game developer, you're selling games or you're making money from games through in-app purchases or advertising, or as a premium subscription model. And then the third thing is this very new category where games are actually an entertainment form, which can be experienced without actually playing the game. So a good example is Twitch, YouTube gaming, or Facebook gaming, where you can watch live creators. Now, the industry trend is that more and more these categories are combining in interesting ways. And so what our strategy for Facebook gaming has become is that we're not just going to do one thing. Because we're going to try and satisfy and build the world's biggest gaming community to hit that 2.5 billion people, we have to go do all of these things. So about 2.5 years ago, we started our live streaming business, which allows folks to become creators on our platform. I'm happy to announce that we are the fastest growing platform. We are probably the #1 platform in Southeast Asia. I say probably because I don't want people to quote me incorrectly, but we're very likely the #1 platform in Southeast Asia. We're also the #1 platform in Latin America and in Brazil. And very shortly, we'll probably be the #1 platform in Middle East and Asia, Middle East region as well. And that's all because of the strong focus on the things that I talked about earlier. The reason why we got to that rapid growth is because we focused on making sure that we brought together the community in a healthy way. One of the things that we experience often in gaming is that you get into situations where people can't have a good conversation online. But with Facebook, bringing your authentic self, we're able to bring not just great community, but creators who enjoy those communities and are able to create interesting opportunities for each other. The other thing that we are focused on, which I think is an interesting story by itself, is playing games on Facebook. Now, this is a trend that I want, and so stepping aside from live streaming, which I think everybody understands because the world of esports and influencers is just exploding. The thing that I want to kind of zoom in on very quickly is the idea of gameplay. The big trend that's happening in our industry today, and I don't want to say this I don't want to offend any of my colleagues in the industry, but what's happening is that we are in a kind of a really rough period, honestly, about gameplay. And the reason why we're in a rough period is because you're experiencing a lot of lock-in on platforms. And so just today, for example, I don't know if people follow the news, but I encourage you to read the news. We were finally able to get our iOS app for Facebook gaming approved by Apple, but the way that we got it approved is by stripping all gameplay out of the application. So you can't actually play games on Facebook gaming. And that's the only way that we got the application through approval, which is really hard because it's very different from the early days of web and PC, where any game developer had access to hundreds of millions of people. Today, you have to go through the gatekeepers of app stores. And so a real secular trend that I would encourage you all to learn about, and I'm happy to give you my opinions on it, is how the app stores on mobile and how the changing world of cloud gaming is going to possibly disrupt what it means to be a game player and a game developer in the future. And specifically in cloud gaming, what's happening is that the gameplay is being removed from the physical device into the cloud and be accessible to every device. Unfortunately, because of these policies, the true vision of cloud gaming, because of these app store policies, the true vision of cloud gaming is not possible. So Microsoft yesterday had a very extensive press release where they said, hey, look, because of the restrictive policies on app stores, we're going to partner with Samsung, another strong Asian player company, to deliver cloud gaming to the masses, because they can't actually do this in iOS at all. And on Google, it's ultimately very restrictive. So what you're experiencing is, for developers, unfortunately, we're going to enter a bit of a rough period where a lot of thrash between platforms and aggregated systems like iOS and Google Play and others similarly are going to cause a little bit of pain as we go. The good news is companies like Facebook and Microsoft in particular, which don't necessarily have that philosophy, are working really hard to open up the doors to game developers. So for example, on Facebook Gaming, you can submit games in HTML5, and we're working on capabilities for doing things even in native code. That's a future investment that we've made, allowing you to distribute your games on our platforms that can go across every single type of device. So that's the second trend that's going on right now, is that the shift of mobile, while it seems like a really interesting thing, it's actually quite more restrictive than what we have seen in the PC world or in the web world. And so there's going to be some thrash here, and there's going to be a lot of challenges for game developers as well as game players. The third trend that I would love to kind of point out to you is this idea that gaming is all about the act of gameplay or watching somebody game. And a very interesting thing that's going on in our industry right now is that there's a bunch of, because this ecosystem is so large, because there's so many gamers, because gaming is now like mainstream in a way that nobody ever imagined, and more or on top of that, it's so much more lucrative. There's 2.5 billion people and 158 or 153 billion dollar revenue every year, growing 9 to 10 or 11% every year. You are seeing an ecosystem of game associated companies and startups and entrepreneurial activities happening, which you have not seen in music or in radio or on TV or other media types. So here's an example. Right now, I could probably say, hey, if you want to look into game tournament companies, and you could go to Google or Crunchbase or whatever, and you could find 10 to 11 companies that only do game organization, tournament organization. Smash.gg, Challenge. In fact, Facebook Gaming has a tournament feature built right into it. You could go and say, all right, well, I want to know about how to do direct advertising on gaming. Guess what? There's like over 100 companies that do just that. So the third trend that's happening is it's not just gameplay. It's not just watching influencers, and it's not just game developers. You are seeing an entire industrial movement of creating value out of thin air. And so the best example of this in my mind, and I'm sure as soon as I mention this company, people will be like, oh yeah, this makes sense, is Discord. It is insane in the year 2020 that an app, which is the job is to connect to gamers, has 170 million people logging on every month to just use that app, instead of things that are built into the OS in either Google or Android, or WhatsApp, or Messenger, or Line, or anything else. It is impressive that a gaming-only app for messaging and voice, in spite of having so many other options, can be so prevalent in our society. So the third trend that I'd love to point out as like an opportunity for all of you as entrepreneurs and professionals, future professionals, is like, don't just think about gameplay and influencers. Think about all the adjacent activities that exist in the area of gaming that like have yet to be invented. So I'll kind of pause there, and I want to make sure that I like leave the ground open for some healthy discussion and questions. I noticed there's a couple of questions that we can go talk about. But please, I invite you to ask me anything precisely because nobody from Facebook is probably, actually there's a couple people from Facebook on the call, but if I'm going to get penalized for saying the wrong thing, it'll happen after this call. So you can ask me anything right now. So yeah, let's take the first question.
Okay, cool. So thanks, Vivek. So we do a few questions. I think the first one is from Brian. He's actually asking, will Facebook Gaming be looking at working more in the indie game space besides just esports? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And the answer is absolutely yes. You know, and was it Brian? Brian, feel free to correct if I didn't get your question correctly. But one of the things that we are very proud of is because of the way that we have structured our platform, any game developer anywhere can submit games into Facebook Gaming. In fact, we have over 1,000, well over 1,000 partners who develop games to be played directly inside of Facebook. We have a hyper casual platform called Instant Games. And we have developers all the way from Zynga, which are much bigger, to all the way from Us2, which if you ever played Monument Valley, is a developer of Us2, an indie developer, to folks who, for example, there's a great studio in Europe called FRVR that develops games which are super hyper casual, very social in nature. So in fact, I love indie games. I love having 1 or 2 person shops develop games, pitch them to us, submit them, and then hopefully find success on the platform. So it is definitely a part of our strategy, definitely part of our vision, because we don't want to just be catering to the really big folks. We want everybody to be able to make a living and have exciting future in gaming. So yeah, absolutely. The other thing I'll kind of tease out for you is we actually have hired and built a game content team inside of Facebook to co-develop and co-produce games for both AR, VR, which is a future platform, and as well as 2D on Facebook Gaming. And so you'll be seeing more interesting things happening. That's something that's super ultra top secret, so I'm kind of oversharing here, but you'll be seeing something interesting happening where we will be co-producing games with some very interesting indie developers in the near future. Next question.
Okay, that sounds cool. Okay, so we have one from James who says, do you view Discord and such adjacent services as competitors or collaborators, or just take a neutral view on them?
Yeah, that's a great question, and this is one where guaranteed trouble for me saying the wrong thing. But the way I would look at it is this: as somebody who strongly believes in the game industry and strongly believes in the strength of the game industry being in the hands of many players, I love what Discord has done. I absolutely love these adjacent opportunities. When it is appropriate, we do go and acquire to strengthen or build new capabilities into Facebook. For example, we acquired a company called PlayGiga in Spain about 8 months ago that you're welcome to look up. And they're, I can't say too much about it, but they work in delivering instant game experiences to everybody that are almost native code. So that's really interesting to us. Was that a competitor? No, that was just one of the many adjacent interesting things that fit our portfolio. Now, there are interesting situations that are happening where, things like Discord are very interesting and compelling because their true vision is actually changing beyond gaming, and now it becomes a lot more interesting. If you go to Discord now, their motto on their webpage or on their mobile app install page actually says, I think, what does it say? It says the place to hang out and talk. It's not actually, it's trying to it actually took away the words gaming. So now it becomes interesting. Now it's oh, okay. So your aspiration, Discord, is to actually be a generic collaboration and communication and voice tool. And so now I think it becomes a lot more trickier. So I'll kind of zip my lips on that one. But as a game, industry person, I think it is absolutely amazing. And I wish that more and more people would go start more game related adjacent company and opportunities because it's just so big. Another one that's really interesting that we partner very closely with is Unity. You could imagine Unity not being a very interesting. But like, yeah, we have folks that are working with the Unity SDK to enable Unity games to be working directly on Facebook. So like it goes all across the board. So I don't think we have like one policy on it. But our general principle is we want to encourage more and more people in the industry to like and support them as well. And that's why we have a very strong partnership team in Singapore that actually works directly with the game developers and the game industry to unlock new opportunity on Facebook and beyond. All right, next one.
Cool. So we have Jared here. You did mention earlier, the challenges with mobile and everything. But do you think you would ever see, back in the day where you have games actively and prolifically hosted on Facebook itself? Maybe on the web version instead of mobile, I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good question. And the answer is absolutely yes. And so stay tuned later this half. Sorry, half is like the internal Facebook term. That's like how we break up our development milestones. But later this year, you can stay tuned for some announcements from our side. But I can tell you the following. All of Facebook.com has been updated and rebuilt from the ground up to be modernized. It's rolling out right now. It's at like 10 to 20%. You might not see it, but if you do see it, it's like a completely new look for Facebook.com. And I'm happy to tell you that the gaming tab is one of the default tabs that everybody will get as part of that built-in experience. And in that gaming tab, you will have new types of games slowly trickling in as our partners line up for it. You will have the ability to play games directly onto Facebook through the web. And that, by the way, is replicated on mobile as well, where the gaming tab, now this one's a little bit interesting because we only give it to people who show gaming intent on Facebook, but that can be also a place, that will be also a place where people can play instant games and in the future, other types of experiences, game-related experiences as well. So like, absolutely, like we are investing big time in making that a huge deal on the web again, just like it used to be.
Okay, that's really awesome because I missed the instant games in my messenger.
Yeah. So we moved a lot of the instant games over to Facebook app for a variety of reasons, which are probably not pertinent to the call. But like they're in Facebook app, we're just now rebuilding them as they were kind of changed from Messenger to Facebook app. Next, other questions? Yep.
Cool. So next one would be, as a content distributor, does Facebook Gaming consider revenue models for teams? So esports teams specifically.
Yeah. This is one I'm actually like super interested to like talk to more people about as we stay connected. We work with esports teams. In fact, our Singapore Facebook team is very, very prolific in terms of working out competitions and tournaments. We actually have a tournaments product. So I'm interested if there is a new interesting business idea where the entire team has some association with Facebook. I'd love to hear it. Today, what we do is we just basically have a partner program and an affiliate program called Level Up, where the individuals in those teams are on our platform, but their team presence is however they want to manage it. And that's mostly not because of those individuals, it's because of the team managers. So if you have a team manager that wants to work closely with Facebook, please send me a note and let's work out something. Open to it.
Awesome. Sounds great. Okay, so I think we have time for one more question.
Go for it.
So last one would be, will Facebook go into publishing of indies to help boost the development ecosystem? So I think you mentioned that you guys are doing co-development.
Yep. So I mentioned that one. I saw offline experiences. Stay tuned. There's some interesting stuff that we're working on that one. And then how many content creators? Boy, the answer to that one is come to the platform because we will help you grow. We will take as many. So we have over 150,000 content creators on the platform today, and they're making a very healthy living. So if you're a content creator, come to the platform. We will support you. Contact the Singapore gaming team. And if you have any difficulty doing that, look me up and send me a note, and I'd be happy to hook you up. But I absolutely love the Southeast Asia market. I absolutely love Singapore. It is one of my favorite places to be, but also more importantly, you guys are just so smart, so on top of it. So my ending thing would be, this is a huge opportunity for all of us. Whether it's Twitch, YouTube, Google, Facebook, it doesn't matter. Go do stuff. And if you have an amazing idea and you want to partner, hit us up.
Okay. Wow, that's super awesome. Thank you so much, Vivek, and thank you
so much. I appreciate everybody's time. Take care.
Thanks.